We really appreciate you joining us. As many of you know, ISM is now merged with SWK, so we have a lot more people attending our Lunch and Learns, and we welcome everyone. SWK also has the largest Sage affiliate VAR program, so we would also like to welcome all of our PSP customers. If you have any questions on the SWK and ISM merger or any of our programs, please just let us know by reaching out to your CAM. My name is Sherry Palumbo. I'm one of your SWK customer account managers, and it's my pleasure to introduce our presenter today. Today, we're going to be looking at an explanation of cloud hosting in simple terms with our own Chief Technology Officer, Mr. BJ O'Reilly. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All lines will be muted during the presentation to prevent background noise. If you have any questions, please type it into the chat box at the bottom of your GoToWebinar sidebar and then hit Send Question to Staff. At any time during the webinar, we will address those questions at the end of the session. Also, this webinar will be recorded. You will receive a link to that in your follow-up email. And if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to any one of our CAMs here at SWK. So without further ado, let me turn this over to BJ. BJ, it's all yours.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. I'm happy to present hosting and cloud strategy with you today. So I will be taking you through that, and hopefully after this explanation and with a quick short demo, because we like to demo, we'll be able to get a better understanding of how cloud architecture and cloud strategy can help you in your company. So without further ado, we'll get started. So I'm going to do a hosting overview. I like to call it hosting. A lot of people call it cloud computing. You can call it SaaS. All different terminologies, but in the end, the easiest term really to define it is hosting. We're taking something that you have on premise, we're moving it into the cloud, and we're hosting it on your behalf. So you'll hear my terminology go that direction, even though the buzzword is really about cloud. So in the world of cloud architecture, it gets very complicated. There is a lot of infrastructure, so we like to call it infrastructure as a service. So IaaS instead of SaaS, because what we're doing is we're providing your underlying core architecture. So your server, your deployment for a desktop interface, all of that information is contained in the cloud architecture. It's then they're stored, it's backed up, and provided and made available to you 24/7 with our hopes that it's always up 24/7. Most cloud structure companies have usually a guaranteed uptime of 99.7 to 99.8%, and I'll kind of explain that to you as we get further along on what that uptime means. So what is cloud computing? It's a shared pool of configurable computing resources. It's an on-demand network access. You access it when you need it. You don't have to be connected all the time. And we're the provisioner. We actually set it up for you, create it, get it ready, get your cloud computing structure ready to go, and we're able to quickly and efficiently have that infrastructure up in no time. So for those of you that suffered what I call the pains of upgrades through the years where your infrastructure has to be continually upgraded, we're doing that for you. So we're providing all of that structure. So we're doing something like your computer network, we're providing the servers, and we're providing the backend storage or housing of that information for you in a cloud computed architecture and stored somewhere in the cloud. And then we provide, or in some cases, application layers. So for us, if you're hosting, let's say, a Sage 100, you would provide the Sage 100, so you're bringing your own software, but we're providing all of the other applications that might be associated with it, such as Excel, which is a very common application used with the ERP world. So just to give you some statistics right now, we currently manage in our cloud infrastructure 3.2 terabytes of memory, 32 terabytes of managed solid state array. So all of our disks are solid state, and it's designed that way because what we found in my many years of Sage 100 is that ERP is a very IO intensive, input-output intensive application. It requires a lot of disk intensity to run. So we built our infrastructure with that understanding that disk intensity was the most demanding piece that we had to provide. We're managing about 6.7 terabytes of total backup, backed up in different spots, and you'll see that when we talk about our architecture. And our hardware life cycle is less than 1.8 years. So most of you are buying a server. That server you're going to want it to last for 4 or 5 years. But in our hardware life cycle, we're rotating out so that our maximum average lifespan of a server is 1.8 years. So you're always getting the newest technology, the latest and greatest in technology in your back-end side. So we're doing all of that behind the scenes. It's seamless to you. It just happens as it goes, and which is part of that cloud infrastructure. Then some of our things that we're using from a cloud infrastructure is we're using a product called Parallels for our remote access software. We found moving away from Citrix and some of those mainstream providers and using providers like Parallels allowed us a lot more configurability. It also allowed us to be multi-device aware. One of the things that's a misnomer in the world of cloud is I can only run my cloud infrastructure on a PC that's a Windows PC. That is a fallacy on our side. Our cloud infrastructure allows you to run on any device you want, from a mobile phone to an iPad to an Apple laptop to a Windows laptop, even an Android device if you want it to. So our service allows that to allow you to bring your own device for accessibility to whatever extent you want. So we wanted that universal nature to be able to do that. So we do use some industry standards like Datto for our backup and cloud protection. Datto has been around for a while. They are one of the industry leaders in backup. We're using Microsoft Azure as our secondary backup data center. So we store everything up in Azure from a backup standpoint for in case of a total event failure. It's unlikely, but we have a I think it's down to 0.0012% or something like that of a potential data failure, but it can happen. So there's different cloud computing. There's application service, which is a SaaS. So like some of you might be on Office 365. You might have Google Apps. You might be using Salesforce.com. All of those application servers or SaaS products they're bringing the application to you and providing you the application layer. Then there's an application platform where you've got something like Google App Engine or Facebook or one of those types of companies that are an application that provides other applications a launching point. And then there's a server platform. And that's where we play into on Secure Cloud Services is we play in that server platform. So we're bringing server to you. And the difference between us and let's say a RightScale or an Amazon AWS or any of those is that we're providing all of the back-end management. So we're a fully managed cloud service. Therefore, you're not having to provision and set up and do all of the things associated with let's say an AWS, Amazon Web Services. We're providing all of that for you. So when we deploy and provide the server, it's ready to go, ready to install software. And then you have storage platforms nowadays. So the world of storage has become cloud computing dependent. So as people exceeded their drive space capacity, where in the past we would just simply buy more drive space, we're now storing things out in the cloud. So some of you might be using OneDrive from Microsoft as a good example of that storage capacity, or you might use, a product like Box as another type storage mechanism. So then you have this whole world of cloud computing service layers. So there's services, applications, development, platform storage, and hosting. Again, that's where we play. Our core spot is in that hosting world. And as you can see, it's infrastructure focused when you get down to hosting, but we are what I would call more boutique-ish in the sense that we're bridging application focus and infrastructure focus and bringing those together. So our unique quality to be partnered with SWK Technologies, for example, and Secure Cloud allows us to bridge that gap of both application and infrastructure for you. Not that our infrastructure people are absolute, let's say, Sage 100 experts, but they do know the ins and outs of the application layer and what should or shouldn't be there. So, makes it easy. So some basic cloud characteristics. The need to know in terms of the underlying details of the infrastructure. So you don't need to know. You really don't have to understand how everything's coming together. I wanted to present and simplify that a little bit more for you, but for the most part, the infrastructure as we build it out and how it works is really not a concern. You just want it to be on 24/7 and available to you when you need it to be available. We also talk about flexibility and elasticity. So we should be able to scale up and down. So your business grows. So the business that has 4 users today could have 14 users tomorrow. That's our benefit of hosting. We're available to scale with you. So the server can be simply through a quick update, which is a simple reboot process, suddenly can scale up in memory. We can scale up in processor size. We can scale up in drive capacity, all from a simple 2 to 3 minute period. And that allows us to be able to bring resources for you. So we can build that up. So as your business grows, or in some cases, we've had clients where they downsize their business and they've had less users. We have that flexibility to go up and down as needed to build with your business. And that brings us into pay as much as you used and need it. So again, we're always on anywhere and any place, and we're providing that same structure you got when you were running your application natively in your own network, but now it can be at home, it can be in a bus stop, it can be in an airport, or as one of our users right now is sitting in a plane, you could be running it right on a plane if you wanted to, right over the internet. So again, ability to work anywhere that you need to. Some things to talk about are support. So you'll hear this thing called an SLA. So an SLA is a service level agreement. And in any hosting or cloud infrastructure, whether it's IaaS or it's SaaS, that infrastructure has a service level agreement. Ours is actually located on our website. And this is about how fast we're going to respond to a support request for you. And it's important that we cover this because in any instance where you're going to consider cloud computing, what's their service level agreement say to you? And how should they refer back? So in our case, our response time and tickets of anything sent to support at Secure Cloud Services Inc., for instance, we're going to respond within 30 minutes. You leave a voicemail in our support voicemail box, we're going to respond in 30 minutes. If you email a technician directly, it's going to take longer because they're servicing the customers through a support mechanism. So if you email them directly, it's going to take a little longer. We also offer a portal response. So you can go to the portal, log a ticket from there, attach information if you want, and we're going to be still 30 minutes if high, 60 minutes if medium. Again, this SLA is important. It's how fast do we get back to you in the event of a service level issue. So things like new user adds may take longer. So we might have a 3 to 4 hour turnaround, sometimes sooner, depending on what support is needed. So, and then we're always going to help by, for example, referring out to a 100 team or an Acumatica team as needed, because we're working with those teams directly all the time. So we're going to be able to pass that on. So if we choose to find, or if we find out that your support issue truly wasn't a hosting issue, we're going to help you move that response into a correct location. So again, that's what you want with your hosting. You want them to be able to bridge that gap because they're talking the technical and moving that through the channel with you. And sometimes there is an unknown there, whether it's hosting or whether it's not, whether it's application. So our technicians having enough experience to know when to bridge that gap and move it through for you. So, and then we'll even do requested support acceleration. So if we need to move it into a high response, we'll do it. Return a call within 15 minutes as needed. So, and system down issues are 15 minutes. I will tell you, and this takes us into this 99.7 or 99.8 uptime guarantee, is we shouldn't ever see a system down that lasts 15 minutes. In the event there is a system down issue that is within the control of the organization, we're going to resolve that in a very timely fashion. The other thing is an SLA, and you can find one on our website at securecloudservicesinc.com or nelnube.com. You're going to find really quickly that we're also going to tell you if there's an extended period of downtime, we're going to credit you back some money for that. So so a service level agreement should have a response requirement, and it should have some benefit back to you if we don't meet those service levels. So what is the purpose and benefits of cloud computing or hosting? So cloud computing enables companies and applications which are system infrastructure dependent to be infrastructureless. So you get to not have to depend on having to update that infrastructure. So I got to get new switches, I got to put new cabling in, I got to put new servers in, I got to buy, incredibly robust workstations to run the application. All of that, you're not required to have any of that. The other thing that's really good is it's pay as used on demand. So you can save as your business grows up, you expand as your business changes. Especially, we have quite a few cloud computing customers that are seasonal. So it's great for them. They can build up their user licensing for a short period of time and then bring it back down as needed. So again, it allows that flexibility for you to build up and down as needed. The data is on our platforms versus on individual PCs or servers, and it's, again, backed up and secure. And it allows you to use our servers to do all the processing and data manipulation. So cloud storage, you're hearing that a lot today because people have said, hey, keep your application on premise, but hey, use our cloud storage. So I'll talk to that a little bit in the fact that a lot of web companies are exploring that where they're using storage capacity and farming it out to other people because it works well. They're able to take those large pieces of unused data and move it off into the cloud at a less expensive cost for them. So people like Amazon have what they call EC2, which is their elastic computing cloud and their simple storages. And then you have people like Azure, which have their same infrastructure as well. That's fantastic for applications that are not dependent on heavy input, output, or drive capability. So for instance, the Sage 100 would not do well with hosted cloud storage. It would slow you down. It would be painful for you. But where it works well for us as a infrastructure company is we can offload the things that you don't access on a regular basis and offload those in a very fast and almost real-time fashion and allow us to store them up in the cloud without having to use up very valuable solid-state SANs or arrays. So it does make it nice for that, but our infrastructure supports that so that you're never feeling like you're waiting for the data to catch up. But it is a terminology you definitely want to know about. So here's some opportunities and challenges. So there's a number of opportunities. Enable services to be used without any understanding of the infrastructure, so you don't care. You don't have to have the IT guy. It works on economies of scale, so therefore, as the company gets bigger or buys more or grows, it'll grow with them. It's on-demand pricing, so it's when you need it. And the cost by establishing an ongoing revenue stream. So for us, every month, we're billing you for those services, so it's an ongoing revenue source for us, which allows us to invest in our infrastructure. So we know that that's going to be there for a period of time. And data and services are stored remotely but accessible from anywhere. Like I said, I quite a few times can get right onto our accounting system just via my iPad with a simple click and a touch of a button. So it makes it really nice. So again, going on to opportunities and challenges. In parallel, there's been a backlash with cloud computing. So, people will say, hey, you have dependence on others, which might limit the flexibility and innovation. But if you think about it, companies like Google, IBM, Amazon, all of those companies saw the need for cloud computing. They developed, some fairly sophisticated cloud computing architectures. If you're following the news, people like Microsoft have moved into the #2 spot as the cloud computing giants of the world. So arguably, there really shouldn't be a backlash against it because people are adopting it more and more. So one of the things that people talk about, security could prove to be a big issue. So the ownership of data, and this is probably the biggest question people have with who owns the data. In your world of infrastructure as an investment, You always own the data. We simply provide the infrastructure for that data to sit on. So it's always yours to own. You can have it at any time. You can move it at any time. You can pull it down at any time. Your applications that you bring, when you bring your own application to that infrastructure as an investment, you get the ability to take that with you as well. So unlike a SaaS, where you might be doing, let's say, a Salesforce.com, it's very unclear. Now, they'll always tell you can get your data out, but is it in a usable, workable situation? So those are the questions. And there's also issues related to policy and access, so we do not store anything out of the continental US. All of our data is stored in the continental US. If we have a remote server go down, we have an array that has backup capability and is constantly moving things around as needed. So it's very rarely that we see any kind of impending issue. And in a total event failure, we use Microsoft Azure, again, stored in the US, to act as our remote data facility. So, most of our clients are not 24/7 highly critical. So our time to spin up in that 30-minute SLA is 30 minutes roughly in a total event failure. So, and we have tested it a few times. So some advantages of cloud computing: lower computer costs. You don't need the high power, high priced computers to run computing. You can use devices like even Chrome. We have a couple clients that use Chromebooks, for $150. So, and there's no need for processing power on that local device, so that we take care of all the processing power. And, we also find that we've been able to make efficient your storage of a lot of your applications by cleaning them up and putting them in the environment and managing them for you. So you're less dependent on an IT professional to keep an eye on that. The biggest example of that is we had a customer several months ago get a malware ransom virus, took over their entire computer, discovered their IT company had been checking their backups, and they had backed up for 6 months. So you don't want to be in that place. So we're constantly monitoring backups. We're constantly making sure that we ensure we have them. And we're also making sure that those backups have a safe integrity. So we have ransomware detection that prevents the backups from being infected. We have all of these things that we put in place. Again, the infrastructure is fairly extensive, but we give that ability for you to have that infrastructure. So in summary, cloud computing is an umbrella term used to refer to internet-based development and services, and a number of characteristics define cloud data, application services, and infrastructure. So you're remotely hosted. Services or data are hosted on remote infrastructure, which again is the primary services that we provide is remotely hosted. It's ubiquitous. Our services or data are available from anywhere. Now, when I say that, I want to be very clear. Our U.S. hosting is primarily to North America, and as such, we invested in a geodynamic filtering, and then we filter out all other countries out of the U.S., and that is to protect our clients by making them as secure as possible. So if you're traveling into Europe, or you're traveling over into Asia or any of those places, you would have to have us define or give you what we call an access infrastructure passcode for a period of time, which would allow you then to be able to access the data center. So while we say anywhere, we truly do restrict that for your safety and sake of the organization. So we're not being hacked by China, we're not being hacked by India, because we're excluding those countries from allowing any kind of geographical access. And that doesn't mean they're not trying through the US, but we definitely make it much harder for them. And it's commodified, so you pay for what you want. It's like gas and electric. So you need 5 users of hosting, great. You need 7 users, great. Oh, I need to go back down to 5, great. Right? So you pay for what you need versus having to pay, I need to go buy this server and hope that I'm going to fulfill it with 25 users when I really only have 10. Or I bought this server to power up 10 users, and now I've doubled my user count, and now I have to go out and buy a new server that I just bought 2 years ago. So So those are some of the nice benefits, is that we're like gas and utility, you pay for what you need when you want it. All right. With that said, I'm going to do a quick demo and move away from PowerPoint and show you access to our infrastructure. So I'm going to log on to the infrastructure, and I'll bring up our, you can see I'm using out of my system tray. I'm accessing from the system tray standpoint. So the nice thing is I have access to the hosting infrastructure just like you would. Simply you've installed the client, and I have the ability to connect to multiple connections. So depending on how your security is set up, we may very clearly identify a connection rule that is going to be set up for you. So I'm going to go ahead and access this server and just bring it up. So I'm not sure how it's responding on your side, but that just logged me in instantly. So I'm on a wireless connection, as evidenced down here. You can see I'm using a wireless connection, and I have connected into this server infrastructure. You can see this is a Sage 100 2018 infrastructure, by the way. And so very quickly, very efficiently, it should take me right in. And some of the things that it does in that infrastructure is it automatically mapped my drives locally. So you can see my BJ surface here. So this is my local drives to my laptop. So if I want to move files between the infrastructure, I can either copy and paste between that, or I can simply access files on my local drive if I want to. So we automatically give you access locally between the two infrastructures so that you can move things back and forth seamlessly for yourself. It also automatically mapped all of my printers. So if I was to look at printers and settings, you'll see that all of my printers that are available to me have been mapped over. So these are my printers as well. So we map 100% of your printers, so that way you can print to any device that your local computer has access to. So it makes it easy. It's all done seamlessly for you. You don't have to do anything on that side at all. So it makes it easy. And I can go ahead and start up, let's say, a Sage 2018 application. Quick, fast, it should respond quickly. Shouldn't, again, I'll start that up one more time just to show you. Again, your side may be refreshing, but we'll just select. Obviously, I haven't logged into this one with this user ID. They should have very quick response, very quick connectivity. Again, we're providing that infrastructure. The next time you want to upgrade Sage 100, we're providing the infrastructure to do that, so you're not having to worry about servers or compatibility issues. We're always making sure that that's compatible for you as you go. So this is, again, somebody as a network infrastructure, as a software, or as an infrastructure, as an application. They brought Sage 100, and we've also provided them, with an Excel license. So if I wanted to open Excel locally, I've got a 2016 Excel license that's been all set up for me. I don't have to do anything. So it's all functional within the system. So, and again, I can also pass that data between the two environments very easily. So it makes it very simple, very quick. And again, I should be able to just easily just log off and sign out just as easily as I logged in. So the other thing that's nice too is I can very quickly, and I'll put my desktop icons back on there, but if I wanted to, if I'm a person that is constantly, accessing a server, I can very quickly go in here, and if I wanted to, I can say create this on the desktop. So I don't even have to open my client. I can just go here to my Icon Foods, and I can go ahead and just open it up from right there. So again, we stored your credentials, we secured your credentials, it's passing all the way through, so I'm just simply clicking that on and in I go. So it's just, should be easy, should be quick. You know, these are all things that, as a structure, that, you know, and it's not dependent on how fast my PC is running. It's not dependent on my computer at all. It's dependent on primarily internet speed. I would tell you at you know, at 47,000 feet and running, you know, go in-flight internet, it's not as fast as you would like it to be, but it's still usable and still fully functional and still works. It makes it nice. So that's my presentation. Getting a little bit early, but that's my presentation. I want to open it up for questions, if there are any. Go ahead, and if you want to put any questions down in the chat box, I'm happy to do that. But otherwise, that's my overview on cloud computing, a simplified instruction, not anything long and quick, but just giving you guys an idea that, you know, it should be simple, should be easy, cost effective, and it should scale and grow with you, or actually scale down as the businesses change. All of those things are great aspects.
Well,
Any
BJ,
questions?
this is Sherry. I do have a couple of questions that have been supplied. First
Okay.
question is, if a bulk restore is needed, can the data be sent on a physical media? And if so, is there additional cost for restores?
So there is no cost to restores to your environment. If you want physical media sent to you, I should say this, if you're going off of our hosting and you need to move it to a different hosting center, we'll supply the media, and we only charge a nominal shipping charge for that. If you're moving from another hosting environment, we'll send the physical media, have it transferred, and supply all of that at no charge to you. But if you have, you know, something get deleted, something happens, we'll always do a restore back to your physical environment for you at no charge. It's part of our fully managed service.
Thank you. Next question. Do you support remote apps instead of full RDP sessions? We
do for everything but Sage 100. It doesn't like it. It doesn't like it on Citrix, and it doesn't like it anywhere else. And it's primarily, I'll be upfront, it's primarily because of Sage Exchange. If you're not using credit cards, then you could potentially be able to use it. But Sage 100 is very temperamental on its screen mapping, and so sometimes tends to have a problem with monitor size using as a published app. So we prefer to supply it in a full desktop mode. You just seem to have a better experience. So.
Thank you. Next question. How is the data stored? Is it encrypted using a customer supplied key? Can the supplier access the data? So
your data is encrypted, and it is encrypted in a way that is done one of two ways. You can do a customer supplied key at your request. However, if you lose the key and we have to do a restore, that can cause us a problem on an encrypted drive. So it's very important that you don't lose that. Or we can create a key for you, store it, and we store it in a product called Passportal. By the way, I meant to touch on that. And that is an off-site secure password storage facility in that event. Our infrastructure is not accessible via the public web, so you can't get to our backend infrastructure through any other method other than a direct connection to the data center via VPN. So it's very secure. So we don't have parallels ability for us to go into our infrastructure. We have to connect up to a VPN to get there. So it's a fairly secure infrastructure.
And the last question that I have at the moment actually flows right into what you just said. Where is the data stored? Is it a single data center or replicated elsewhere? And if so, how often is it replicated?
That's a good question. So we are in a SAS 16 secure data center that's on the West Coast. It is a single data center for us with Azure as our backup data center, and it is duplicated every 3 minutes. So we are almost in near real time between our data center, our primary data center, and our backup data center with Azure. It's not cost effective from a hosting standpoint to maintain an up production backup data center for an application like 100. So we run that data center application in a synchronized state. Like I said, we would be within a 3 minute window And that varies from anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, but 3 minutes is our longest time. So we do duplicate that. We also back up all of our infrastructure every 60 minutes to the Datto cloud, and that's also a secondary backup for us as well that we can spin up in their cloud infrastructure if need be as well. So we our two primary are the Datto cloud and Microsoft Azure as our backup data centers. So.
Perfect, thank you. That is all the questions that I can see. BJ, I want to thank you for such great information that you provided us today on cloud hosting. Very, very insightful content that will become very useful. If you do have questions that come up that you think of after we end our session, please feel free to reach out to your CAM. If you're not sure who that is, you can email CAM team, that's C-A-M as in Mary, team at swktech.com, and someone will respond to your question. Remember that you're going to get a follow-up email with a survey and a copy of the recording from today's webinar. So you will have that if you'd like to show that to someone else in your team. So with that, I'm going to end today's webinar. Thank you everyone for attending. Please look for our other webinar this week, which is Sage Business Insights on Thursday. Contact us if you need a registration link. BJ, thanks again. Everyone have a great day.